I'd like to start off just by congratulating Joe and Stacey on the beautiful wedding and thanking Mr. and Mrs. Reader as well as Irene for this wonderful evening. If I recall correctly, it was the first day of grade 11, right after Joe had moved from Georgia to Montreal, where I walked into homeroom and I saw this new blonde kid sitting in the back of the room. And I said, okay, I'm gonna be the good guy and go introduce myself to him. So I walked out, we introduced each other, and then I think for the next 10 minutes I spoke to him about some baseball game that I had watched the night before about the Atlanta Braves. And finally, 10 minutes later, he looked at me and said, yeah, I don't really follow baseball. I'd probably stereotyped and figured like every American he was a big baseball guy. But he looked at me and said, I'm a basketball dude. But even though he was one of the newest kids around campus, he quickly became one of the most popular guys. Everybody wanted to be around Joe, and it seemed like Joe was at his happiest when he was around others. Whether it was just hanging out at lunch or recess or on weekends, there was never a dull moment with Joe. I recall a lot of times where we tried to get him to speak French, and we finally knew we succeeded when he knew more swear words than he did actual words. Although he was never embarrassed when Abigail was able to speak better French than he was. But even though now that we're thousands of miles away, and we still manage to maintain this friendship and the love and everything that we have with it, goes to show you how special of a guy Joe is. He's got friends all over the world, but he still manages to maintain that special relationship with everybody. Now, I know yesterday most of you heard the story about how Stacey fell in love with Joe. I'm going to tell you how Joe fell in love with Stacey. About a year after I met him, he was at LCC, and they had an orientation day, which is where basically they get to know each other. And after that day, I went over to his house, and I asked him, I said, so, how'd it go? And he looks me in the eyes, and I quote this word for word, he goes, dude, I'm in love. I said, you're in love? He goes, I'm in love. I said, well, tell me about her. She's got long, frizzy black hair. Wonderful features and stunning eyes. I said, okay, well, where does she live? What's her name? Well, she lives around here. She's from TMR. Her name is Stacey Romano. And I look him in the eyes and I said, you gotta be kidding me. I know Stacey. I grew up playing baseball with Brandon, and I said, Irene, right? And he didn't know that, but I said, Irene was probably our biggest fan on our baseball team at every game. So I said, all right, if she's the one, I'm gonna help you make this happen. So every day, for the next few months, I'd text him at the end of the day, and I'd ask him, so, how'd it go? And he'd say, oh, today was a good day. I passed her in the hallway, and she smiled there. I asked for a pencil or something like that. I think it even got to the point where when he took her on her first few dates, he'd come over and go through my wardrobe and borrow a lot of my clothes because he quickly realized that the southern lifestyle was a bit different than what we had out in Canada. I think at one point too, he even went out to the pharmacy and bought anti-sweat cream for his hands. Because he was nervous that Stacey was going to rear when she does the sweaty palms. I think with Joe and Stacey, it even got to a point where everybody around them, and I'm sure the girls over there could vouch for me, knew that they had a thing for each other, but neither of them had the courage to confront one another until one day after a few dates, Joe finally went up to Stacey and asked her if they could be dating and make it official, and well, the rest is history, right? I couldn't have been happier that Joe was someone like Stacey to be with and somebody to take care of him. If you guys complement one another and make a good team that together could conquer anything life throws at you. Even though you're far away from friends and family, I'm comforted knowing that you have each other to be with. I miss having you guys back on the East Coast, whether it's happy hour at the Reader residence or rescuing you from a snowstorm at midnight in the middle of Vermont. There's just something about you guys that I miss. You've never taken each other for granted, and you've always supported one another no matter what. Having Joe and Stacey in our lives is a blessing to all of us. You guys are always fun to be with and always a pleasure to be around. Whether it's driving across the coast or across the country or just hanging out and sharing laughs, there's never a dull moment with you guys. We all know that they fell in love from the first time they laid eyes on each other. But I truly believe that the love they share is an unbreakable bond, that their love is essentially unconditional. Joe, let me give you a word of advice on how to never forget your anniversary date. Just forget it once and you'll never forget it again after that. Joe and Stacey, I couldn't be happier for you guys, and I wouldn't want to be anywhere else in the world than right here with you guys now, celebrating this wonderful day. I wish you all lots of love and happiness, and may you live a long and prosperous life together. I love you guys.